Hello again, welcome to our third video in Chapter 10. And the last video we kind of finished up subtraction, and hopefully you learned how to change subtraction to addition. Highly recommend that you master that skill and get good at it. Multiplication, some people find a little bit easier because on this one you're just pretty much going to be multiplying the way we always have. However, with integers and negative numbers, you're going to have to learn these signs, the rules of these signs that start on this page here. Once you have those memorized, it's really pretty simple. So, first one, what we're talking here is about signs. Okay, if you multiply a positive number times a positive number, you will always get a positive. Okay, positive times positive is a positive number. You've been doing that. 3 times 2 is 6. There's an example, right? A positive times positive. Second one, if you do a positive times a negative or a negative times a negative, you'll always, a negative times a positive, you'll always get a negative. All right, so one thing that you can think of here is different signs multiplied is always negative. Okay. The last one down here, negative times a negative, this is the really weird one that's really hard to explain, but it's true that a negative times a negative is positive. So with these two, kind of wish I would have put these together in my PowerPoint now. With those two, same signs, whenever you multiply the same signs, answer is positive. Same signs, negative times negative is a positive. You just have to memorize that at this point. It is a true fact. I can show you sometime in class. I don't have time to go into that now, but it is true. If you multiply two negatives, you get a positive. There. So, because of those rules, this is at the bottom of page 7. There's nothing to fill in this blank, but this is just showing you how to. The first thing that you should do is determine the sign when you multiply. Okay, we're talking about when you multiply real numbers, integers, positive, negative numbers. Determine the sign and write it down. If it's negative, write down the negative sign. And then you just take the absolute values and you multiply them. And then that's your answer right there. Simple enough. Like this page. Negative 3 times negative 4. Well, negative 3 times negative 4. You got a negative times a negative. All right. Negative times negative is positive. 3 times 4 is 12. Number 2. One thing I've seen people do on number 2 on problems like that is to think that that means subtract. That it's not subtract because you have basically a number touching the parentheses. Whenever you have something touching the parentheses without a sign, it's always multiply. Multiply. So that means 2 times negative 5. So since I have a positive times a negative, you're going to determine that that's a negative answer. Then you just multiply 2 times 5. Same thing with 3. You have negative 6 times 5. You got 2 parentheses touching there. Negative 30. You have on number 4, negative 2 times negative 3 times negative 1. You multiply that out and you get negative 6. Now on that particular question, if it helps you to write it out, it would go like this. One thing at a time. A negative times a negative is positive. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive. So now you have 6 times negative 1. You have a positive times a negative is negative 1. Negative 6. Apparently I can't multiply anymore. If I can do algebra, I just can't multiply or add, I guess. Number 5. If you're going to do that one, we could do it kind of the same way. Negative times negative is positive 1 times negative 2 times negative 1. And then you have 1 times negative 2 is negative 2 times negative 1. And negative 2 times negative 1 equals positive 2. And there you've got an answer there for you. So hopefully that helps you with those rules. We've got the rules of division are exactly the same. Okay, they are exactly the same as the rules of multiplication. A positive divided by a positive is a positive number. Different signs divided is a negative number, and negative divided by a negative is positive, just like multiplication. So you would do division the same way. You would figure out what the sign is, write down the sign, then just divide. I said multiply there, that should be divide. Can't believe I haven't fixed that. You would divide, copied it from the multiply rule, and multiply slide, and I didn't fix it. So anyway, number 1, I'm going to notice that that's a negative divided by a negative, so I'm thinking it's going to be positive, and then positive, and then I'm just going to take 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Same thing with number 2. I'm going to look at that, I'm going to think, hey, that's negative, because I have a positive divided by a negative. Then I'm going to divide, it's negative 2. 12 divided by negative 6 is also negative 2. Number 4, you have a negative divided by a negative. 24 divided by 2 is 12. Number 5, that's the one that has no solution. It's impossible. You cannot divide by 0. You can't take 8 things and regroup them in groups of 0. But number 6, that's the one that equals 0. Okay, so you cannot call number 5 0, because that would be counted wrong. It's not the answer. Number 5 is no solution. Number 6 is 0 there for you. So, last couple of things here, and then we're almost done. Can you believe it with Chapter 10? The review right here, we've talked about this earlier, but it is important that when we talk about division, you recall that the reciprocal of a value is equal to 1 over x. So the reciprocal of x is 1 over x. So if I ask you for the reciprocal of 5, remember that's really 5 over 1, you flip it basically. The reason you flip it is when you multiply it, the answer is equal to 1. So the rest of these here, 1 over 3, its reciprocal would be 3. I'm just listing the reciprocal here. Number 3, the reciprocal of 5 over 7 is 7 over 5. On number 4, notice I kept the sign. Okay, notice I kept the sign because the real definition, we're going to look on the next slide, the real definition of reciprocal is when you multiply those things together, you get an answer of 1. So if you take negative 4/3 and you multiply it times negative 3/4, okay, you can see that the common factors cancel out there, common factors cancel out there. If 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 on the bottom is 1, a negative times a negative is a positive. Therefore, the reciprocal will keep its sign. Okay, number 5, you just flip that. Number 6, you flip that. And 8 does not have a reciprocal because you can't multiply 0 times something and end up with 1. So that's the solution there. So this is what we were just talking about. Whenever you multiply reciprocals, the product is always equal to 1, just like we said. So if you want another example, we did one on the last page, but if I have 2/3, all right, you'd multiply that times 3 over 2. Okay, these two numbers are reciprocals. Because you can see the factors cancel out. Or if you don't see that, you could say 3 over 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. It all equals 1 anyway. So that's it. We are done with Chapter 10. Just one more chapter to go. Take time on that. Hopefully it's a little easier.